Haven't told farm manager. What's Harry gonna say? He's gonna kill me. Right, well, nearly all the cows are in it, apart from our heifers, and I'm going down to check them a minute. But we're just walking by the Hazard wagon. That's in cold storage now, look. We hope to see that again in the spring. Oh, look at it, stacked up there, looking sad. Right, so, let me climb over. I got a friend of mine who went to college with 40 years ago, who every birthday, and he must be nearly 60 now, jumps over a gate like that as part of his Facebook thing. He puts it up once a year to show he can still jump over a gate, which I think is a pretty good challenge really to do as you get older. I wonder at some point he'll get to the point where he can't jump over a gate. I don't think it's quite as high as that one, but it's a good challenge. Right, so I'm in the last but one field of grass on the farm which the heifers can have. So this side here was strip dazed by the cows probably a couple of weeks ago before they came in. It's grown back a little bit. The other side we actually re-drilled. When we did that drilling along the road where we direct drilled some grass seed, we actually put some in here as well because it was a little bit killed off by the drought. It's come back really well. It wasn't as bad as the other field for dead grass, so I kind of maybe think I could have got away without direct drilling it, but it won't do any harm. But because of that, we didn't let the cows graze it because we didn't want them to pull out any roots. So we've got quite a lot of grass in there, enough to keep some young stock happy for quite a long time. So what I'm going to do, I've got to take this fence down. There's no point in having that there, they'll just demolish that. I'm going to take this down, we'll have a little look in there. Then I'm going to move the cattle into the lower field, have a look at them, and just, well, discuss our plan to keep the heifers out as long as we can. I'll be back in a minute when I've done this. Right, that's reeled in. I mean, you can see on it now, the wire on this is started to really snag up and break down. I'm going to have to replace that for next year. That stays there all year. Because what that does, actually effectively replaces the hedge my dad took out in the mid-80s, which was down here. So when I was a boy, this was two fields, split in half, almost on that line. I think it curved round slightly actually, but it was split that field. And he took it out. I mean, it's hard to remember now, but back when I was growing up as a kid, 70s and 80s, taking out hedges was just the thing people did. They just made big fields, and it was a really good way of mechanising your farm, I suppose. You could cut more hay in a shorter time, or make silage easier because you didn't have to keep going in and out of these little fields. But in some instances, it is actually not such a good idea because, well, it wasn't a good idea for environmental reasons anyway, but for a hedgerow like this is actually a real pain, because what it did is we run cattle down from there across there. You can see the line almost where they go. And we constantly having to put this fence up and down, up and down. Sometimes we graze the whole field across and it's good not to have the hedge. But I would say, really, this is a candidate to put back in one day because, you know, realistically it would be better as two fields because then you haven't got to worry about the cattle running over everywhere. And when we get them up for TB testing from the lower fields, it is a right pain because they run right across there instead of basically what the hedge did was angle them into there, because the hedge stopped just on there. So it was a corner, and you always want a gate on a corner when you're moving cattle. Right, let's have a look at this grass then. So we've got some of the old pastures come back really well. And then you can see the sort of fresher, younger grass. I think in the gaps, this is nice. Someone said do the tug test. Now that does sound like something else, but the tug test is basically, when you pull it out, does it rip off or do the roots come out? Now the trouble is, that's still a bit soft. Look, let me just see. If the cattle grazing that, will any of that come out? See, some of that's coming out. Some of that I think is probably still a little bit soft and young. And what you don't want is basically the cattle to graze this and then for it all to come out. So I'm a little bit hesitant of what we're going to do with this. This is why this has been not grazed by the cows, and I'm sort of thinking we're getting every day as a bonus on this. The longer I leave it, maybe if the heifers graze it in a week's time, maybe less than that, it won't pull out when they eat it. But I'll have to keep a strong eye on that. If I let them in here, I might come down and just watch how they graze. Because what I don't want them is them doing a tug on it when they're eating and pulling out all the young grass. Right, but there is a few more days grazing here for the heifers. You know, they'd be happy out in this field for 2 or 3 days. Right, I'm conscious on a low battery, so I'm going to turn this off now. We'll have a little look at some other stuff when we get down there and look at the heifers when I move them. Right, this is the last. This is the field, not the last field, the last but one field we're going to graze. That field has just come through. This one here, the heifers are actually, I can hear them bawling. They're probably not particularly happy now. They are probably starting to look for grass. Come on in. Right. So they pretty well have 2/3 of the farm now, and they're just ranching it. I'm really winging it. I am really winging it, keeping them out this late, because what happened now, if they get hungry, they'll start looking for holes in the hedge, and I don't want them getting out on ridges or out on the road. So literally, I think what we're doing is bringing them slowly back to the farm, having that bit, and then going on that last field. I mean, just while we're here, this is interesting. So back in up until the mid 80s, I suppose, or maybe late 80s, my dad overwintered all the heifers because he didn't have any sheds. He didn't have enough sheds. And it was only in the mid 80s probably he built what we call the barrier shed. We call it a barrier shed because the only shed on the farm at the time had one of those feed barriers, and he basically then was able to overwinter the heifers inside. But up to then we had this shed here, which was where we kept all the hay, and it was a hay barn for feeding in the winter down here. Because you might wonder, why is there a random barn in the middle of nowhere? Because it's right in the centre of the farm. But you see, what we do is overwinter them down here, and then we'd come down. I remember this would be absolutely full of hay right to the top, and I would come down with my dad, and I remember at Christmas and stuff, and we'd end up putting some bales out into the field, spreading them around, and that would be his way of overwintering them. The only trouble was it would poach up the ground. Right, should we go? Come on girls, let's go and have a look in there. Right, hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. They're running, look. They want a bit of fresh ground. There's too many down here really. So we probably could actually overwinter half a dozen down here or something, just leaving them to wander, but we never do that. Once you've got one lot in, you might as well get them all in. But what we're doing on Thursday, and it won't be on video because you know the rules, my brother doesn't want to be on camera, so I'm not gonna film it. But on Thursday we're actually hoiking out about half a dozen of these. So we'll look at the dust on the lens. Sorry about the annoying dust on the lens. That's actually inside the lens, so I can't clean it. This is what destroys these cameras, farm dust. Right, so yeah, we're going to hoik out about half a dozen of these. There's some here. There's you see some of the bigger ones are in calf. We're going to pull up, I think there's a couple that are in calf, and then there's about 4 that are actually overdue for bulling. We have messed up, so I can't believe it. I'm not quite sure how we managed to do it, but we've got some that are getting on 22 months old that should have been served. We generally serve at 18 months, and that means get them in calf first time. And for some reason there's about 3 or 4 down here that are 22 months, and that's a real bad management situation there. We've slipped up. Now I don't know why we did that, because we had the cattle up for a TB test in September, and we should have kept them up there, and I don't know why what the hell happened. You can't get everything right, but it does annoy me that we messed up there. So we're 4 months behind on service. So what we'll probably do is we'll bring up those 4 with the 2 that are due to calve, And then what we'll probably do is we'll bring them on bulling on with estromate, which is a hormone. So they'll come bulling straight away if we inject those. We've got a vet visit next week, so they can check them out and make sure they're all fine. And then they'll be served within probably a week or two with AI, because we haven't got the benefit of time of waiting to see them bull naturally, because we've kind of messed up. So there's a cock-up. If you don't have cock-ups on a farm, you're not really a farmer, because everyone's got I had a classic cock-up today. I might show you when I get back up. Bloody, I hit the asbestos with a round bale. I loaded some round bales this morning, and I caught the loader on the flipping sheets, and bang, I've broken 2 sheets on the barn, which is really annoying. Right, let's have a look at these. So this is probably one of the bulling ones. I'd have to check my numbers. Haven't got that paperwork with me, but you can see a good sized heifer there. It doesn't actually hurt to keep them, serve them later. If you know our herd, you'll know that the last couple of cows we got rid of were 10 years old. They were the oldest cows in the herd, and they went to the abattoir. So we can sort of ride the storm of having a slightly later calving. I don't really want to be as late as this, but some people serve their heifers younger than that. Some people serve at 16 months and stuff. We tend to aim for 18 months. 22 months is really too late, really, I think. But at the end of the day, we'll keep them longer. So, a loss of 4 months if you keep them till 10 years is nothing, really, is it? The other thing I would say is I personally would rather let the animal have a little bit more of its youth, if you like, before it calved. So you give them a little bit more chance to sort of like relax. But you don't want them to get fat. Hello. So I'll have to check these. There's 680 and 700. That's quite a number difference. Some of these might not be old enough. Let's have a look what we got. 650 there. There's nothing obvious bagged up here, is there? Oh, hang on. There we go. 649. I knew it. Should have bought me a bit of card. Look, she's got a little bit of an udder on her. Look, can you see that? Let's just go through there. Not much, but she's going to be calving in the next. Look, she has got an udder on her. It's not bagged up really tight. When I say bagged up really tight, that sort of blows up that udder. That's not bagged up, is it? So she's not really ready to calve yet, but she is the next one to calve down here. Let's have a look. We should be 33. We'll have a little count. Let's see if I can count these. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, right. I'm going to put this camera down and recheck. I'm pleased to report there are 33. Right, the other one that I was going to look at is over here. That's the other one's due to calve. Look, she hasn't got much of an udder yet either. I'm actually not too worried now. I was sort of thinking we'd have to get them up, but they're not really looking. There we go, look. Bit of an udder on this one, 665. But nothing really, they're not showing a milk vein underneath, or that's just not very bagged up, is it? Because generally speaking, if you've got heifers, the udder doesn't really show till near calving. With a cow, obviously, the udder's always dangling down. But if I show you, look, you can see these heifers here. Look, you can't really see the udder between the legs. It's there, but it's not particularly prominent, is it? You wouldn't say, oh, look at the udder on that. Maybe you would if you're kinky, I don't know. It just doesn't, look, let me just zoom in on that. You can just see some teats there. You can't really see much of an udder. It doesn't really develop. And then it's only when they're near to calving that the udder really develops, look. And you can see the difference there, look. You can see the udder there, look. So she's near to calving, but that's not a tight udder. What I call a tight udder, look. It's not filled out with milk or anything, because it will fill out before it's due to calve. So these are going to come up next week, or probably this week, but I don't think they're going to calve for a while. But they're happy. Look how happy they are out here on this grass. There is a nice bite of grass here for them, actually. I don't think we need to rush to move them for maybe Friday, I don't know. But so I'm gonna keep these out at least while it's dry for another week. But you know, as I said, the worry is don't want to Don't want to keep them out and then find they're getting through into redges, because that's what they start wandering. If they're hungry, if they can't find food, they'll wander. That's the worst thing you can do, is have animals in a field with no food, and then they'll either eat the hedges or at least wander through the hedges. But look at them, they are doing well. I like it. Pleased to see them. On a day like today, it's a blue sky winter day, it's not bad, is it? You know? Take a nice picture. Look at that. If I do that, that's not really, as soon as you go above half, there you go, that's a nice picture. As soon as you go, if you split the magnification to 0.5, it does a really wide angle, weird picture. Right, anyway, let's just zoom in. I'll have one more look, and then we're going to see this crash site that I messed up. Look at that. They're all pleasantly happy, 33. There we go. Right, so let's go up. Basically what I'm doing is every day down here is a bonus, because it's less silage I've got to feed, which I haven't got. We'll have a quick look at the clamp when I get back. I don't say I'm deeply worried about how much silage we got, but it's gnawing at the back of my mind that we're very tight. We've got a lot of round bales. We managed to buy a lot of round bales, but the clamp silage is looking a bit low. But we're going to open the maize this week as well, so that'll slow down the silage eating. But we'll have a quick look. Let's go up. See ya. Well, here's some of the bales I got in today. Reg Pierce brought them round. We had a load in the summer. I got some more down there. It's hard to see that. We had some more in the summer, and we got these now. But look at this. This is the cock up. Look up. Oh look. Let me just. Oh, this is lovely bits of asbestos, which we don't really want. So, me being a clot, I tried putting a bale on top of these bales and clip that. But do you know what's really annoying? Look at that. What's really annoying is I haven't just broken one sheet, I've broken two. Because if you look, there's a line there, look, can you see there's the join? So there's two panels broken. What a flipping nightmare. That's been up there since the 70s. I dare say it's asbestos. And oh, look, it just fell down there. There's another bit there. Haven't told my brother yet. Haven't told farm manager. What's Harry gonna say? He's gonna kill me. Oh, just happens, doesn't it? Anyway, the worst bit about that is it's not a quick fix, and there's another bit broken there. Look, just easily done. You just catch something, and there's another bit that was caught by Samson's on a trailer once, or a loader. They said they replaced it and never did, but never mind. But the worst bit about things like that is that it just makes the place look a bit untidy. If you start having loads of broken sheets on a building. Anyway, look, there's our silage clamp, and you can see we're back. Bearing in mind we're just at the beginning of December, we're back on a bay forward, probably half a bay forward of where I'd like to be. But we're also very low. That ain't a steep silage face, is it?